What if I told you that some of the most nutritious, delicious, and productive vegetables you can easily grow? Vegetables that our grandparents grew without thinking twice, that saved people during famines. Most people don't realize this. While we're busy chasing exotic plants and delicate crops that demand endless care, the easiest vegetables to grow are right under our noses, waiting to be planted in your own backyard. These vegetables don't need a farm. They don't need perfect soil. They don't need expensive tools or years of experience. They just grow and keep giving. Welcome to this channel. In this video, we are going to show you 10 easy-to-grow vegetables that you can start in your own backyard today, and they will change the way you think about vegetable gardening forever. So stay with us until the end. Vegetable 1. Tomatoes. Here is the truth about supermarket tomatoes that the food industry does not advertise. They are picked green, deliberately, before the flavor has developed. Then they are gassed with ethylene to turn red during transport. The tomato you buy in a shop was never actually allowed to ripen on the plant. It has never tasted what a tomato is supposed to taste like. A tomato allowed to ripen fully on the vine in your own garden is a completely different food, sweet, complex, acidic, and rich in a way that nothing in a supermarket packaging can replicate. This is not nostalgia, this is chemistry. The flavor compounds in a tomato develop in the final days of ripening, when the fruit is still on the plant. Once picked, that process stops. Your shop-bought tomato never had that window. Tomatoes have been cultivated in the Americas for over 2,000 years. The Aztec civilization grew them extensively. Spanish explorers brought them to Europe in the 1500s, where they were initially grown only as ornamental plants. Europeans were suspicious of eating them because the tomato plant's leaves and stems are genuinely toxic. It took almost 200 years for Europeans to start eating them. The Italians finally committed, and the rest of the world followed. Now there are over 10,000 known tomato varieties. In the backyard, tomatoes need full sun, at least 6 hours daily, a support structure as they grow, and consistent watering. They are not difficult, they are just specific. Give them sun, water, and support, and they reward you with harvests from midsummer until the first frost. Vegetable 2. Zucchini. Zucchini is the vegetable that turns first-time gardeners into people who leave bags of produce on their neighbors' doorsteps and ring the bell before running away. One zucchini plant, properly established in warm soil with decent sun, produces fruit continuously from midsummer until frost. Not 1 or 2 fruits, not a small harvest every few weeks, continuously. A single plant in a productive season can yield over 20 pounds of zucchini. 2 plants and you will be giving them away. 3 plants and your neighbors will stop answering the door. Zucchini is native to Central America and was cultivated by indigenous peoples throughout the Americas for thousands of years before European contact. Spanish explorers brought it back to Europe in the 1500s. Today, it is a staple of Mediterranean, Middle Eastern, and American cuisine. Roasted, grilled, stuffed, sliced into salads, baked into bread, spiralized into pasta. Few vegetables are as versatile in the kitchen. Growing it is genuinely straightforward. Warm soil, full sun, regular watering at the base of the plant rather than on the leaves. The plants are large, allow them space, at least 3 feet in each direction, and they reward that space spectacularly. The flowers are also edible. Stuffed zucchini blossoms are considered a delicacy in Italian cuisine and are worth more per flower at a farmer's market than the fruit itself. Vegetable 3. Garlic. Garlic is the closest thing to a set-and-forget vegetable that exists. You plant individual cloves in autumn, you do almost nothing through winter. In early summer, you pull the most satisfying harvest from the ground, full, papery bulbs that smell extraordinary and taste completely unlike anything sold in a supermarket. Garlic has been cultivated for over 5,000 years. It appears in ancient Egyptian records. Workers building the pyramids were given garlic as part of their daily rations, believed to provide strength and prevent illness. Ancient Greek athletes ate it before competition. Roman soldiers carried it on campaign. Traditional medicine across Asia, Europe, and the Middle East used it for centuries for everything from infections to cardiovascular health. Modern research has confirmed that allicin, the compound released when garlic is crushed, has genuine antimicrobial and anti-inflammatory properties. 5,000 years of folk medicine pointing to the same plant. The science eventually caught up. In the garden, garlic requires almost nothing. Plant cloves pointed end up, 2 inches deep, 6 inches apart in well-drained soil in autumn. Mulch lightly over winter. Remove the flower stalks, called scapes, when they appear in early summer. The plant directs energy into the bulb instead of flowering. Harvest when the lower leaves begin to yellow, usually midsummer. Cure in a warm, airy spot for several weeks, and it stores for months. Vegetable 4. Peppers. Peppers, whether sweet bell peppers or chili varieties, are one of the most productive warm-season vegetables you can grow. One plant established in a sunny spot produces fruit from midsummer until the first frost. In a good season, that is 4 months of continuous harvesting from a single plant that cost a few pounds or dollars as a seedling. All peppers come from the same species, Capsicum animum, native to Mexico and Central America, where it has been cultivated for over 9,000 years. The Aztec civilization used chili peppers extensively in cooking, medicine, and even as a weapon. Dried chili smoke was used in battle. Spanish explorers brought peppers to Europe in the late 1400s. Within decades, they had spread across the entire world. Today, chili peppers are the most widely grown spice crop on Earth. The heat comes from a compound called capsaicin, which binds to pain receptors in the mouth. Your brain interprets it as heat even though no actual temperature change is happening. The burning sensation is entirely neurological. Growing peppers requires warmth. They want full sun and warm soil. In cooler climates, start them indoors 6 to 8 weeks before the last frost date and transplant once the soil has warmed. They are drought tolerant once established, but produce far better with consistent watering. Sweet varieties like California Wonder and Yolo Wonder are reliable performers for beginners. For heat, cayenne and jalapeno are both productive and straightforward. Bonus tip: pick a few peppers while they are still green before they fully ripen to red or yellow. This signals the plant to produce more fruit and extends the season significantly. A pepper left on the plant to fully ripen is sweeter and more nutritious. It contains significantly more vitamin C when red than when green, but removing some early keeps the plant producing for longer. Balance early picking with some left to ripen fully.
Vegetable 5. Lettuce. Loose-leaf lettuce is the vegetable that teaches you what cut and come again really means. You cut the outer leaves, the plant regrows from the center. Within 10 to 14 days, it is ready to harvest again. One planting gives you 3, 4, sometimes 5 harvests before the plant bolts. Lettuce has been cultivated for over 5,000 years. Ancient Egyptians grew it. It appears in tomb paintings and was considered sacred to Min, the god of fertility. Greeks and Romans ate it widely. By the time European explorers set sail in the 1400s and 1500s, lettuce was already a standard garden vegetable across the Mediterranean world. The flavor difference between lettuce eaten within an hour of cutting and lettuce from a supermarket bag is one of the most dramatic in all of food growing. Pre-washed, pre-cut salad bags are sealed in modified atmosphere packaging to slow deterioration. The leaves were cut days ago. By the time you open the bag, they're already losing texture and flavor. Lettuce from your own garden, cut minutes before a meal, has a freshness and crispness that no packaging can preserve.
Lettuce wants cool temperatures. Spring and autumn are its seasons. In summer heat, it bolts, sends up a flower stalk, turns bitter, and finishes. Plant it early in spring while the soil is still cool. Succession plant every 2 weeks for a continuous supply. Choose loose-leaf varieties like oak leaf, red sails, or buttercrunch. These produce cut-and-come-again leaves rather than a single head.
If you're already picking your favorites, do me a favor. Hit that like button. It helps us reach more people who want to grow food without the stress. Subscribe and ring the bell to join our weekly community for honest, practical gardening advice. Ready for more? Here are 5 more vegetables that will completely transform your backyard. Let's go! Vegetable 6. Carrots. A freshly pulled carrot, still warm from the soil, eaten immediately, is one of the most purely satisfying food experiences available from a home garden. Sweet, crunchy, with a depth of flavor that the uniform stored, shipped carrots in a supermarket bag simply do not have. Carrots originated in Afghanistan over 1,000 years ago as a purple or yellow root. The orange carrot we consider standard was developed by Dutch growers in the 17th century, believed to be a tribute to William of Orange. That centuries-long breeding history, thousands of generations of selection for sweetness, color, and productivity, is what you are working with when you grow a carrot today. Carrots take 3 to 4 months from seed to harvest. That is the longest growing time on this list, but here is why they are worth it. The sweetness in a freshly pulled carrot comes partly from sugars that develop in the ground and begin converting to starch after harvest. The carrot you pull from your own soil and eat that day has a sweetness that is physically impossible to preserve through distribution and storage. You can only get it from your own garden. That flavor is locked behind the growing time. Carrots need deep, loose, stone-free soil. Stones cause them to fork. Sow seeds directly where they are to grow, thin to 2 inches apart once established, keep consistently moist through germination, and then largely leave them alone. They prefer cool weather and will tolerate light frost. In mild areas, they can stay in the ground through winter and be pulled as needed. Vegetable 7. Kale. Kale does something that almost no other vegetable does. It gets sweeter when the temperature drops. When temperatures fall below freezing, kale converts some of its starches to sugars, a biological antifreeze mechanism. The leaves become noticeably sweeter and more complex after frost. Spring kale, growing through cool mornings, is mild. Autumn kale after the first frosts is something else entirely. This is why traditional kale-eating cultures, Scottish crofters, Scandinavian farmers, Irish smallholders, all ate it through winter. The cold was not a problem. The cold was the point. Kale has been cultivated in Europe for over 2,000 years. Before the potato arrived from the Americas in the 1500s, kale was one of the most important winter vegetables across northern Europe. It was survival food, one of the few green vegetables that stayed productive through the cold months when almost nothing else in the garden was producing. It was not a fashionable superfood. It was what kept people alive through winter. Modern nutritional research has validated that dependence. 100 grams of raw kale provides over 200 micrograms of vitamin C, nearly twice the recommended daily amount. It is also high in vitamin K, vitamin A, calcium, and iron. From a plant that grows in your backyard from late spring through the following spring, 8 months of continuous harvest from a single planting in temperate climates. Vegetable 8. Cucumber. Cucumbers are one of the fastest producing warm-season vegetables you can grow. Once a cucumber plant is established and flowering, fruit develops from pollinated flower to harvest-ready cucumber in 8 to 10 days. In peak summer, a productive plant needs checking every day. Miss 2 days, and you will find cucumbers the size of a zeppelin. Cucumbers have been cultivated for over 3,000 years, originating in the foothills of the Himalayas in South Asia. Ancient Egyptians ate them. Romans prized them.
The Emperor Tiberius reportedly demanded cucumbers every day of the year, and Roman gardeners developed early versions of greenhouse growing specifically to keep him supplied through winter. They spread along trade routes across Asia and the Middle East and arrived in Europe in the 9th century. Cucumbers need warmth. They are frost-sensitive and slow in cool weather. Plant after the last frost in warm, fertile soil with full sun. They need support as they grow. A trellis or fence works perfectly and keeps the fruit off the ground, reducing the risk of rot and pest damage. Regular watering is essential. Inconsistent moisture causes bitterness and poor fruit development. Water at the base, not on the leaves, to reduce the risk of mildew. Bush varieties like Bush Pickle and Space Master are compact and suitable for smaller backyards. Climbing varieties like Marketmore and Straight 8 produce more abundantly and take up less ground space when trained vertically. Bonus tip: grow cucumbers vertically on a trellis rather than letting them sprawl along the ground. Vertical growing increases air circulation around the leaves, dramatically reducing the powdery mildew that is the most common cucumber problem. The fruit hangs straight rather than developing the curved shape that comes from ground growing. And you get significantly more cucumbers from the same ground area because the plant is using vertical space that would otherwise be wasted. Vegetable 9. Radish. Radishes are ready to harvest in 18 to 21 days from seed, not weeks after transplanting, not weeks after germination. 21 days from the moment the seed touches the soil to the moment you pull the root from the ground. No other commonly grown vegetable comes close to that speed. That speed makes radishes uniquely valuable, as a quick return while slower crops are establishing, as a gap filler between plantings, and as a practical way to mark rows of slow germinating seeds like carrots and parsnips, so you know where the row is while you wait weeks for emergence. Radishes were cultivated in ancient Egypt over 4,000 years ago. Records show they were provided as part of the daily rations for workers building the pyramids. They have been a standard kitchen garden crop across Europe and Asia for centuries. In Japan, the daikon radish is one of the most important vegetables in the national cuisine. In France, small breakfast radishes served with cold butter and sea salt are a classic spring dish eaten for generations. Different cultures, same vegetable, same speed. The flavor is sharp, peppery, and clean. Cool-grown radishes are mild. Heat-stressed radishes develop intensity very quickly. Keep them well watered, harvest the moment they reach the size of a large marble, and they are at their best. Leave them longer and they become woody and very spicy. The window between perfect and past is only a few days, but the window comes fast and comes reliably. Vegetable 10. Beans. Beans are the most generous vegetable on this list. They produce abundantly. They are simple to grow. They have been feeding people for over 8,000 years, and they improve the soil they grow in. Beans are a legume. The root systems of legumes host bacteria that pull nitrogen directly from the atmosphere and deposit it in the surrounding soil. This is the same biological process that farmers use when they rotate crops with beans and peas to restore soil fertility. In your backyard, beans do this automatically. Plant beans in a bed this season, and when you cut the spent plants down at the end of the year, leave the roots in the ground. The nitrogen stays there and feeds whatever you plant in the same bed next season. A vegetable that produces food and improves the soil simultaneously is genuinely unusual. Beans were cultivated across the Americas, Africa, and Asia thousands of years before any contact between those civilizations, each culture discovering independently that the same type of plant was worth growing. In the Americas, the Three Sisters planting system, corn, beans, and squash grown together, was used by indigenous peoples for thousands of years. The beans fixed nitrogen for the corn stalks supported the beans, the squash covered the ground to retain moisture. a food system so well designed that modern permaculture is still borrowing from it. French beans and runner beans are both straightforward in the backyard. French beans are compact and self-supporting. Runner beans climb and need support, but produce extraordinarily generously. Both want warm soil, full sun, and consistent watering. Sow directly in the ground after the last frost. Do not start them indoors, they dislike transplanting. Within 8 to 10 weeks of sowing, you will be harvesting. 10 veggies, 1 backyard, 1 season to change your life. From tomatoes with real flavor to zucchini that never stops producing, and carrots sweeter than any shop-bought snack. This isn't about having the perfect garden or expert tools. It's about the magic of eating food you grew yourself. The snap of a fresh pea or the smell of a homegrown tomato is an experience money simply can't buy. Your challenge? Pick just 3 vegetables from this list and plant them today. Tell me which ones you chose in the comments. I read them all. If this inspired you, hit like and subscribe.